Hey everyone, Jen back with another episode of What's on the Burger, a Bob's Burgers podcast. So, anyway, we are in, we are on episode 5 of Bob's Burgers season 1, which is, I want to say Murder Dance Party, but I know that's not it. Hamburger Dinner Party is what it's called. So, in this episode, though, we do find out that Hamburger Dinner Theater, yes. We do find out that Linda has this weird obsession with dinner theater. And it makes it really weird for just the rest of the family, I feel like, especially Bob. Because he does tell us what it does to Linda. Linda will sit there and basically start singing everything in life, which we do catch that here and there with her character. You know, she does sing some stuff when she's talking to people here and there, but not to this extent. I guess she does it all the time whenever she goes to see dinner theater. But our scene kind of opens up for this episode where she's getting ready for an engagement, and it sounds like she's going to a strip club. So I kind of like this little part here where she's talking about it, and he's like, oh, you know, what do they do there? And she goes, oh, you know, they dance, you know, it's a men's club, and they sit there and, you know, they dance and strip and stuff like that. And he asks her something, I think along the lines of like, why is it so good or whatever. She goes, oh, they have really good pickles. That's why it's called pickles. You know, they're really good, like pickles that are made in some kind of, you know. And by that time, Bob kind of knows what's going on. He goes, you're not going to a strip club, even though I wish you were. You're going to dinner theater. And thus we get this kind of part where we find out that Bob really hates dinner theater because of that whole thing with Linda, where she will go to dinner theater, and then when she comes back home for like the next week, she will sit there and sing everything, which we do get a little montage of them going through stuff as she's cooking breakfast. She's singing to Bob. As she's working in a restaurant, she's singing. Bob asks if they can do anything in the bedroom, and she, you know, sings about it or whatever, and just kind of really turns into a lot of weird stuff with that. So from there, they do let her go, and we find out that Mort, the mortuary owner next door, also likes dinner theater. And he actually goes and asks Linda what she thought of the performance that they had last night or whatever, that they went to. I guess they went to, I don't think he went to the same show as her, but went to the same show like a different night. You know, dinner theater, they'll keep it around for a little while. They made it sound like when Linda was telling us about it that they stick around for maybe about 3 months from start to finish. I don't know if that's exactly true, but I've only ever been to 2 dinner theaters that weren't like high scale or anything. So if you have, you know, comment on the podcast or anything else, let us know if you've been to a dinner theater, and go from there, and let us know about your experience, you know, where you went. Maybe if Mike or I visit one of these other towns, we can try one of these good dinner theaters and stuff. But moving forward with this, we do have that whole thing, and Mort brings up, because Linda brings up, you know, her actually wanting to have a chance on the stage, actually getting to do a dinner theater. And Mort brings up, he goes, you already have the dinner part of it. He goes, you have this restaurant. Why not do the theater part here as well? Which is kind of funny. So she asks Bob, and Bob says, I really don't want to do this. And she plays the whole, well, I've put in for your dreams kind of thing. You can help me with mine, because the restaurant is Bob's dream. And Linda's like, we kind of do this every day kind of sort of thing. And Bob has to end up saying yes. And he says that she can do it for like 1 weekend for 3 days. And go from there. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do. And Linda comes up with this wacky-ass name called Dreamatorium. How that fits into any of this, I have no idea. Besides it just being like her dream. But she asks all the kids what they want. They want like a murder mystery, love story with aliens and all this other stuff. And Linda kind of pulls the best parts out of it. I mean, there's not an alien in it, but she pulls the best parts out of it to write the script and everything. And it is a murder mystery story that her, Jean, Tina, Louise, and Mort all take a part in. Bob is just the cook and takes the money. So he has to put on this Dreamatorium. They do that, and it's all part of a morgue, because Mort has the props and stuff. So he develops a morgue kind of scenario in the corner of the Bob's Burger store, and kind of hangs up some props and stuff here and there. Nothing really like too big, but he's got all these kind of like, I feel like Halloween-y props. It's kind of weird to an extent, honestly, knowing that a funeral director kind of has that stuff. But who knows? Maybe he has it to show people like, hey, this is where somebody broke their leg or something like that. I don't know. Jean, as always, is the person that covers the music. And they just kind of go from there. Now, we have everybody has a human part except for Tina. And Tina is supposed to be a tree, which is one of the funny things, I think, in this, because she does have stage fright. We are told in this episode. I think it's really funny in this part because, any movies that you watch, mostly from the 90s or whatever, if it's not one of the lead parts, most of the ones that we have of kids that got something or whatever are all like tree. And the worst part is it's not like tree number 1, or any of anybody that played in the background. It's like tree number 4 that stands off to the right, or something like that. And that's kind of another funny thing I feel like in this is that Tina is playing a tree that they've incorporated into it to make fun of that fact of all the 90 movies, TV shows, when all the kids that couldn't act or anything were trees or, unnamed individual people that were just in the background of these that may have had one line or one word to say. And that's kind of where we go from here. I mean, Tina is a tree that is incorporated into this. And I got a kick out of it because of that, like I said, that's what a lot of it is. And we, find out there's not going to be really a special menu for this. I think Bob is going to make like something that is like a radish burger or something like that. And we have all the costumes and everythings that are made by the kids. So besides the props, part of the stuff that is used is just like stuff that the kids can make out of paper or something like that. Everybody comes in to watch the dinner theater, and you pay for that and that, which we do have this funny scene where Teddy is in there. if you recall from the last episode where we were talking about it, Teddy is now at that point that he is starting to become a more reoccurring character and is in basically every episode. The only bad thing about it is that Teddy's character, I feel like, is too honest, because he says, I just want to sit here, Bob, and eat my hamburger. But he goes, what if I kind of turn around and look at the show? And he goes, well, then you'd have to buy a ticket, So this really weird banter about, just don't turn around and I won't have to charge you for it. And Teddy's like, but I might, get curious about it and want to look at it. And then Bob's like, well, you probably should buy a ticket then. So we just kind of get this little weird, funny banter about that. And of course, Teddy has to be Teddy and try and tell Bob about something else that's in Teddy's life. I mean, it always happens. Teddy's kind of our reminiscer of the past kind of character. So it is fairly funny in that extent. But anyway, let's take a little break right before we get into all of the play and everything else as this episode goes on. And I will see you guys back in 1 second. Hey everyone, and we are back with What's on the Burger, a Bob's Burgers podcast, covering season 1, episode 5, Hamburger Dinner Theater. Now on this one, what we left off with is everything was kind of set for the beginning of the show, for Linda's Dinner Theater. So that is what we're jumping back into right now, is Linda's Dinner Theater has actually started. We had Teddy kind of talking to Bob about stuff with something else, and Bob having to tell him kind of to shut up because the show is starting. So it starts out, we do get some of the stuff, and the show gets canceled early for night number 1 because Mort uses these fake organs and a pump to shoot out like fake blood or whatever, and a lot of people are scarred, so the police are called with this because they actually think that it happened. Now this is the first thing that actually leads into the future events that we will have in this, but as far as it goes right now, that is the very first thing that we have, and a lot of people screw up in this episode. I'm just going to say that. So the first night is kind of ruined. They're cleaning up from it because of all the blood. Linda and Bob kind of are talking about it, and Bob goes, well, the first night obviously wasn't a success. You should just be done with it, kind of, sort of. And Linda says, no, we have at least the other 2 nights that you already agreed to that we would have. So Bob agrees to it. We go into night 2. Night 2, or they practice that night to do better. Tina wants to actually have a line now, which is kind of a little small thing. But then we go into night 2. Night 2, they are having everything built up, and they have where at the end of it, that there is kind of a conundrum that these people don't like. At the beginning of the play, Linda says that she is not the murderer, and at the end she is. And a lot of people feel like that this dinner theater for the Dreamatorium isn't that good because of that situation right there. Again, Bob is kind of like, oh, hey, we should just be done with this, Linda, until another person walks in, a robber in a ski mask, and actually holds up the joint, and has Bob empty the cash out for them from the dinner theater parts. And Lynn and this burglar actually have a scene as they're talking it. They think that it's a part. The police drive by, think that this burglar is a part of this dinner theater, and he ends up robbing them and also taking part in this play that nobody really knows, and having kind of this love interest story before he ends up running away. And a lot of people think that this is all part of the show, which goes into most of this one for episode 5, that people can't tell if it's real or fake, and that's kind of what happens a lot with it. The police officers left it alone because they thought it was a part of the show. It was fake. People come up and ask Bob after the show for money, if they can exchange money or whatever, and he goes, no, I can't do that because I just got robbed. And people think that, oh, it's just a joke, like it's not true, and that, you know, they're playing off this whole thing. When in actuality, they were really robbed. Nobody's doing anything about it, and they can't do anything about it. Which does kind of make a weird scenario. Now, the other thing that I question with that, just pointing this out for anybody else that has watched this or is watching it, is why the burglar chose to pick like a place that was having a dinner theater that has like 30 plus people in it, when any of those people could have potentially called the police or anything else like that. But they didn't. And I know that that's kind of the episode how it was played out. But it would have made more sense maybe to go across the street to the pizzeria, to go over and break into the morgue because there's nobody there. You know, there's a bunch of different places that seem like it makes more sense than a restaurant that you can clearly see all these people in having something going on, and to try and rob that. Like, it just doesn't, especially as one person, it just doesn't feel like it adds up. So pointing that out, that's just a weird thing I feel like with this episode. But we are at the next day. They do file kind of a police report and are talking about it and everything and what happened. And saying, hey, you know, you guys let the guy get away, you know, damn it, I can't believe it, basically. And there's this weird stranger that comes in and is talking to them about it, orders a cup of coffee, and is actually talking to them. This guy sounds really familiar. We've never seen him before as far as the episodes go, but we've heard his voice before. So moving forward with that, you know, the guy is asking about the reviews, what everything is. Everybody says, like, the props seem childish. Everything else in this seems kind of whatever. But they said the last very scene, which is actually the actual robbery, that the scene, it was just perfect. That's what you want to go see with the show. It's amazing, and there's nothing that you should really worry about when it comes down to that. Now, of course, we have a part where Louise extends the truth on this, and everything else goes from there, bringing it up. We have the guy back again, having coffee, wondering about it, talking about it, and then he sings something, and Linda knows who it is. Linda knows that this is the guy that she did the scene with the night before. And, of course, Bob tries to call the police at this point. Now, he already told Bob that the gun was fake. It was in his trunk and everything. And as Bob is talking to him, he does pull this gun out. Bob says, well, that's your first lie. Why would you do that? He goes, well, why would I not lie, basically? Why would I tell the truth, and why would I not have the upper hand all the time? And he goes, well, bonus points, I guess, for you is that this is actually not a fake gun either. So we do go into that more. You know, the guy leaves after robbing them again, basically. And the police officers bring them a cake as I'm sorry, you know, that this happened. But they say that he just escaped and for the police to help. So they actually walk out, see the guy, because they'd seen him earlier that day. and they take off after him to go track him down. They end up catching him at the end of the block, and Linda is just very distraught that this guy was even caught, which is, obviously it's funny because you're kind of like, okay, well, you're not upset that your burglar was caught because you want him to be in your show again. So, we have this part though where, he is caught. Linda hates it. You know, she wanted him to come around for the show again. And we have the last night that they're going to do this thing. So I guess it ran over 4 nights maybe. As this happens, Bob sees how distraught it is with Linda because he encourages her to finish out the show. He's like, why don't you just go ahead and do it, Linda? You know, there's nothing, or whatever. She goes, well, we'll just do it the way that the other one ended. There's no passion behind it or anything else. Linda just kind of done with it because she knows that her dreams are kind of ruined to an extent. But we have this part where Bob sees that, and this is one of the parts where I think you just really see that Bob and Linda are always going to work out. And Bob puts on a chef's hat and covers his face with like a mask or an apron kind of thing, and runs out with a bottle of ketchup and plays off a burglar. Now, a lot of people don't actually enjoy this one. They think it's a little cheesy. It's not what they assumed. The lady that asked for money from the night before did come back and says this isn't the same, it isn't as good. And so there are a lot of upset people. But out of this, Linda is very excited to have Bob, you know. She's excited to have Bob because you know, even though her dreams of having this somewhat successful dinner theater being an actual thing, having Bob actually participate and everything with it is what made Linda happy. And she obviously really loved this part because Bob actually wanted to join in on this hobby with her. So we just get that part where Linda, you know, knows that she's with the right guy. So from there, obviously everybody clears out. It wasn't as good. It wasn't a big a hit as everybody thought that it could have been or should have been or would have been. And that obviously they may never do a dinner theater in the restaurant again, but we do cover more on, like I said, with Bob and Linda's relationship, how they are really good at supporting one another, even though they may disagree or do any of this other stuff. They have a solid foundation relationship that I feel like a lot of people should aim for, even though it is really chaotic and they have the 3 kids that are chaotic. That is actually one of the pivotal points for Bob and Linda's relationship, is that they are always working towards this goal, including having this family restaurant. So, but this also, like I said earlier, at the very beginning, lines up, I feel like, how we have Linda here and there throughout the rest of the series start singing different songs, or when she's doing something, she's singing about it, stuff like that. So that is, though, where this one basically ends. Everybody leaving. There's not very much left to go in that. So the last little bit of this is right here at the very end. You know, we did have Tina have earlier where she wanted to actually say a line. She said she got comfortable enough with it. And now here at the very end, as everybody is cleared out except for Mort and Jean. Sorry, I forgot one of the kids' names. Jean, Louise, Linda, and Bob. And of course, Tina. Tina finally says her one line that she finally said she was ready for. And it just kind of... It falls on deaf ears, but she's super excited that she said it in front of the other 5 people that are there. And wasn't in stage fright or anything else with the people that were there. So it's a little ridiculous, but it's funny. You know, I feel like with Tina, whenever we do watch stuff with her, we do have to celebrate those little accomplishments like that just because of who Tina's character is. But we do have the end of this episode that is really good, that just with that closes it out. So anyway, though, guys, thanks for listening to this episode of the podcast. Season 1, episode 5, Hamburger Dinner Theater of the Bob's Burgers podcast. What's on the burger? And I will catch you on the next exciting episode of this, or an episode of the Otakuology podcast, one of our other side hustles, or whatever you want to call it, side shows. And again, thanks for listening. Bye. And as always, guys, see you next Tuesday. Bye.